Wojciech Kazimierz, Wojciech Siudmak, born on the 10th of October 1942 in the Polish town of Wieluń, is one of the most distinctive imaginations in late 20th and early 21st century European art. A painter and sculptor who has built his career largely in France, he has become a key figure in what is often termed fantastic realism or fantastic hyperrealism, a meticulous, almost classical technique used in the service of fully invented, dreamlike universes. Siudmak's birthplace matters. Wieluń was one of the first towns bombed during the German invasion of Poland in 1939, an episode of destruction that left a lasting imprint on the local landscape and on family memory. Siudmak has spoken of the apocalyptic vision of his ruined town and the despair that accompanied its post-war reality. That early encounter with devastation and with the fragility of the built world forms an important psychological backdrop to an oeuvre filled with crumbling architectures, hybrid bodies, and cosmic spaces where matter can be dismantled and recomposed at will. His art does not illustrate the bombing directly, but it operates in a universe where catastrophe and reconstruction are perpetual possibilities. His formal artistic training began in Warsaw, where he attended the secondary art school Liceum Sztuk Plastycznych from 1956 to 1961, followed by studies at the Academy of Fine Arts in the same city until 1966. This dual formation, first at a rigorous art high school, then at a leading academy, grounded him in drawing, perspective, anatomy, and the technical discipline of oil painting. In the Poland of the late 1950s and early 1960s, artists were negotiating the legacy of socialist realism, the re-emergence of modernist tendencies, and the constraints of a state-controlled cultural sphere. Siudmak's later insistence on absolute imaginative freedom can be read as a personal response to that environment. Instead of aligning with a political avant-garde, he created an imaginary cosmos in which the laws of physics, scale, and even biology are entirely self-authored. In 1966, Siudmak left Poland for Paris, enrolling at the École de Beaux-Arts and settling permanently in France. This move placed him in the historic capital of academic painting, but also at a crossroads of European counterculture and science fiction. The city's long tradition of salon exhibitions and technical excellence gave him a framework for highly finished, large-scale works, while the burgeoning interest in speculative literature, fantasy cinema, and underground comics provided fertile ground for his imagery. From this point forward, he would live and work mainly in the Paris region, maintaining ties to Poland but operating as an international artist. Stylistically, Siudmak describes his work as fantastic hyperrealist, and critics often group him within fantastic realism or surrealist currents. The term is apt. His paintings and drawings display a nearly photographic precision in the rendering of skin, stone, metal, and fabric, yet the objects and beings depicted are impossible. Anatomical fragments merge with architectural details, planetary horizons intersect with Baroque ornament, gravity seems optional. His images draw on the vocabulary of classical sculpture and Baroque painting, muscular bodies, monumental draperies, elaborate balustrades, and splice them into arrangements that obey an internal dream logic rather than the rules of everyday perception. From the late 1960s onward, Siudmak found a particularly receptive audience in the worlds of science fiction and fantasy. His images appeared on book covers and posters, where their combination of clarity and strangeness proved ideal for visualizing alternative worlds without tying them to a single narrative. In Poland, his work became strongly associated with the covers of Frank Herbert's Dune series, helping to define the visual identity of that saga for a generation of readers. His paintings have also been used for record sleeves, most famously the 1977 prog rock album Ocean by École, whose cover is frequently cited as a classic of 1970s science fiction imagery. These commissions did not reduce him to an illustrator. Rather, they circulated his already autonomous imagery in mass cultural contexts. Parallel to his work in painting and drawing, Siudmak developed a sculptural practice, especially from the late 1970s onward. Sculpture allowed him to translate his impossible architectures and hybrid bodies into 3 dimensions, often in bronze or other durable materials. A significant example is his ongoing eternal love motif, first explored in a painting in the mid-1980s and later translated into monumental public works. These sculptures show how his fantastic hyperrealism could be adapted to the language of public monuments, functioning both as autonomous art and as symbols in civic space. Institutionally, Siudmak has enjoyed sustained recognition. His works have been shown in numerous solo and group exhibitions across Europe and beyond, and dedicated spaces have been created for his art at the Regional Museum in Wieluń and at the Museum of the Imaginary in the Château de Ferrières in France. Over the years, he has received various distinctions, including the Grand Prix de l'Imaginaire, with the graphic prize later renamed in his honor, and the Order of Merit of the Republic of Poland. Several French towns where he has worked or exhibited have named him an honorary citizen, marking his integration into the cultural fabric of his adopted country, as well as his continued symbolic importance to his birthplace. In the broader genealogy of visual culture, Siudmak occupies an intriguing position between high art and popular imagery. On the one hand, his technique and references align him with a long tradition of European academic painting, in which mastery of the human figure and of complex compositions was central. On the other, his most widely disseminated works have often appeared on book covers, posters, and album sleeves. This dual existence has allowed his images to permeate collective memory in ways that many gallery-bound works do not, particularly within science fiction fandom and the broader community of speculative art. Recent commentary on the visual development of Denis Villeneuve's Dune films has explicitly acknowledged Siudmak's imagery as a source of inspiration, confirming his influence on contemporary cinematic world-building. Thematically, his oeuvre can be read as a continuous exploration of metamorphosis and scale. Human forms are stretched, multiplied, and embedded within vast mechanical or architectural environments. Planets appear as intimate objects, while small details are granted monumental importance. Time and history seem suspended. Classical columns coexist with futuristic machinery, and the ruins of imagined civilizations feel simultaneously ancient and yet to come. Seen in light of his biographical origins in war-torn Wieluń, these worlds of endless construction and deconstruction take on an additional resonance, as if the artist were perpetually rebuilding reality on his own terms. Today, Siudmak stands as a central figure in the lineage of fantastic realism, a style that refuses the dichotomy between realism and fantasy by insisting that the imagination itself can be rendered with the same precision as any observed object. From his early training in Warsaw, through his mature career in France, he has shown how traditional craft can be harnessed to entirely untraditional worlds. His paintings, drawings, and sculptures invite viewers into a universe where the boundaries between body and architecture, planet and object, history and myth are constantly being redrawn. A universe that, despite its distance from everyday life, is shaped by very real experiences of destruction, exile, and the persistent human desire to rebuild.